Hey everybody, this is Joel Toppen here again, and this is going to be our second video on how to design Vassal modules. We'll go ahead and get started here by opening up Vassal version 3.2.5. That's the version that's the most current at the date of this recording. If you are watching this and there's been updates, significant updates since then, what I'm going to show you in this video should be able to pass on to future versions of Vassal. We're just going to hit the nuts and bolts here. In our very first video, we looked at how to prepare graphics for Vassal module creation. Now we're going to look at how to get started with the actual creation of a Vassal module. As you know, if you use Vassal, when you open up the software, you'll get a screen that shows you your module library with a list of modules, the version number, the Vassal software version under which that module was created, and a description of that particular Vassal module. There's also a server status panel over here so you can find out who's playing on the server right now. What we're going to do to get started here is we're going to create a new Vassal module file. To do that, you click on File up on the menu bar and you choose New Module. When you do that, it'll open up a module that contains no graphics, and so if you tried to start a new game with this, it wouldn't really do anything. You also will encounter a Vassal module editor window. This window can also be accessed when you go to the main Vassal library. If you were to right-click on any of the modules in your library, you would be given the opportunity to edit a module. That would open up that module in edit mode, and essentially it would produce the same screen that you see here. So the module editor window is basically the heart of the Vassal module. This, filling in all the details in this window, is what is going to create your Vassal module. There's no graphics tools really in Vassal software, so you have to prepare the graphics ahead of time. We've already done that, and so now it's just a matter of entering data into this window. The window is organized in a series of folders and subfolders and sub-subfolders. To find out what's in a particular folder, there's a couple of things you can do. Number one, if there's an arrow next to that folder, you can click on it and that will expand or contract that particular folder and its subfolders. For example, under the main map, if I were to hit this button, it shows that there's several subfolders under the main map window folder in the module. What we're going to do first is we're going to enter the basic module data. So let's go ahead and start here. Right-clicking will produce pop-up menus in Vassal. You should be aware of that by now. When we right-click on any kind of folder here in the editor window, you'll be given the opportunity to add new components to that folder or to access the properties of that folder. You can also access the properties of a folder or an item by simply double-clicking on it using the left click. So I'm going to do that here with the main module folder. In there we can put the game name, and I'm just going to put Navajo Wars. Version number, I'm going to put 1.0, and a description, I'm going to put final Vassal, final module, copyright GMT Games 2013, and hit OK. Alright, at this point I should probably save the module file, so I'll click on Save. It'll warn me that there's an error in the module. You got to define at least one board. That's fine. I'm just going to save it anyway, so I'll ignore the error message and go ahead and save it anyways. And opens up a browser. I'll go to the folder that I want to save it in. So in this case, I want to save it in the Navajo Wars folder. And I'm just going to call this particular file, let's call it Navajo Wars _final.vmod. Always use the file extension vmod when creating Vassal module files. We'll hit save, and voila, there we go. Next thing I want to do is I want to define the player sides in the module. So I'm just going to double click on that. There are no defined players at the present time, so I'm just going to go ahead and add some of those in there. In the game, it's a solitaire game, so we can add a solitaire player seat, but you can also play it two-player. If it were a strictly solitaire game, there really wouldn't be any reason to do this. But since it can be played two-player, we're going to go ahead and enter in the two-player sides. So we're going to add the word, red basket, choose to add. And then we're going to add in turquoise. And let's add referee. Okay, now let's say I've added these in, and wow, referee really should go in between red basket and turquoise. What I can do to insert something is I can select over here, and I can type in a different name and choose insert, and it's inserted above that selection. If I need to remove something from the list, I can left click on those and then choose the remove, and it'll take that particular seat out of play. So in this case, I'm just going to go with this solitaire, and I'll choose to insert that. Okay, there's a retire button. Whenever you have player seats assigned in a Vassal module, there'll be a retire button which allows you to give up your seat in the game, thus allowing another player to occupy that role. We're going to go ahead and leave the button text as retire, and the tooltip text is what appears when you hover your mouse over a button on the toolbar, like so. We're not going to mess with the icons right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. And now if you were to start this Vassal module, it would then give you the opportunity to join as one of those three sides that we have now defined. Next thing we'll want to do is we'll want to go into the main map, and we're going to need to create a map board. The playing surface in a Vassal module falls under a map window. And you can have several map windows in a game. However, you want to be careful about that because you want to have one map window that's dominant, that dominates the module, that doesn't need to be removed at any point. It's going to be the one that's going to be open all the time. Other windows that you may open and close from time to time might be windows that you'll have pieces stored in, like a force pool, or perhaps where cards are stored, where decks of cards are stowed away. Those kinds of map windows, you want to make sure that you can hide or reveal them by way of clicking a button on the toolbar. In this game, we're not going to mess with that for now. We're just going to enter in the main map window. So let's look at the properties here under main map. You can see there's all kinds of stuff in here, and a lot of this you may not even understand at first, and it's not going to be all that important. We're not going to mess with the main map name. We're just going to leave that alone. I like to leave the mark pieces that move if they possess the proper trait. I like to leave that set as always. There is a button that will appear on the toolbar when you start a new game that has an MOV on it. When you click on that button, then it will clear away any notations that show pieces as having moved. We're not going to change any of those settings for now. We're not going to mess with the horizontal or vertical padding. Those, I believe, are the it's like a border that you can put around the perimeter of the map. We're not going to mess with that. Our board does not contain multiple boards. Okay, our main map, I should say, does not contain multiple boards. However, if you do have a game that has multiple maps that connect together, like Ardennes 44, or a game like that where there's two maps that abut against one another, thus creating a larger playing surface, you will, and if you've got multiple files for those maps that need to link together, like Panzer, for example, that's another good example, you would need to check this box here. Since we don't have multiple boards here for our main playing surface, I'm going to leave that unchecked. The border thickness for selected counters is set to 3, and the border counter for a selected counter is black. That's default. You can change that by clicking on that and choosing a different color. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with black for now. The border thickness, that's the number of pixels. I can make it a little bit thicker by bumping that up to 4. If you want to have this particular map window be able to appear or disappear by way of a click on a toolbar button, you'll need to enable this checkbox here. We're not going to need to do that, so I'm going to leave that unchecked for now. The auto report formats, we're going to leave those alone for now. We'll talk about those in future lessons. For now, what's the default setting is going to be perfect for you most of the time. So we're going to leave those alone. Key command to apply to all units ending movement on this map is a tool that you can use for automation in a Vassal module. It's what I would call an advanced technique. Essentially what can happen is you can assign a trait to a game piece that when it detects a particular keystroke, it will perform a certain function. And to trigger that keystroke, you can have it apply whenever you drop that unit on the map, so long as this particular field here contains that particular keystroke. We're not going to use any of that stuff for now, so we're going to leave that blank. Click OK. So we've got all the settings for our main map window just how we want them, but we still don't have an actual map graphic. Map graphics are going to go into the map boards. If you look at the properties of map boards, you're going to see there's a dialog box I can have that'll ask me to choose boards. I can change the dialog box title here. I can change the select boards prompt text, and this is going to be something you're going to use in a game that contains multiple maps, multiple boards that you may or may not link together, like in a game like Panzer. We're not going to be doing that, so we're going to leave that alone. If you did have multiple boards that link together and they have a default arrangement, you would need to use the Select Default Board Setup tool here. And by clicking on this button, it'll open this window here, which allows you to select a board that you previously inserted in the module, and you'll arrange the layout for a default setting. I use that particular technique in a game like, say, Ardennes 44, where I've got two map graphics. Rather than stitching them together and making one ginormous JPEG or PNG graphic for the map, that might occupy a lot of memory on systems. So instead what I would do is I would keep the two map graphics separate from one another, and I would use this tool here that would stitch them together within Vassal. That's a more efficient way of managing memory for your users. We'll go ahead and click OK. We haven't changed any default settings here to the map boards. How do we add our map graphic? Well, we're going to do that by right-clicking on map boards, and we're going to choose to add a board. What is add imported class? Well, I don't know. This is a Java programming thing. You can import your own classes of Java programming, and I don't ever do that, so I never use that technique or that tool. We choose to add a board. When we do that, it prompts us immediately with the properties for that board. It's going to ask us for the board's name, and I'm just going to put main map as the name of the board, which is also the name of the main map window. And that's fine. There shouldn't be a conflict there. Now, the board image is currently set to null. In other words, it has nothing. So we're going to click select, and now we're going to look for it. And here we have it right here. The name of our file is already stowed away for us, Navajo map-120a.jpg. We select that guy there. Now there is a checkbox that you can use to make the map reversible, and I almost never use that. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever used that particular tool, but if you need a map to be able to flip over, entirely reverse, upside down, then that would be a checkbox you'd want to have enabled. Otherwise, just leave it blank and click OK. Okay, we're going to save our module file again. Now, in Vassal, sometimes when you insert new graphics, the changes that you make to certain pieces, etc., may immediately take place. In other words, if you were to go into this window here, which is the main Vassal window for that module, and if you were to go to File and New and start a new game, it would reflect those changes immediately. Other times it doesn't, and you actually have to save the file, exit, and reload to see your changes implemented. And inserting new map boards is one of those. So we hit save, and we're going to close the window here. And we'll go ahead and open up the Vassal software here and scroll down, and Navajo Wars should be in here now. Yep, there it is. I've got a couple other versions in here. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the beta versions out of the library so that they're not going to confuse me later on. Right, choose to, all right, we're good. Okay, now for Navajo Wars, what we're going to do is right-click on that, and we're going to choose to edit the module so we can continue our work on it. It takes the graphic image that we just put in there, the Navajo map, and it tiles it. This is just like a memory thing that the newer version 3.2 of Vassal has begun to do. Now, if we click in this part of the Vassal window, not the editor window, but the module window. And if we go to File and click New Game, we'll see now it asks us whether we want to join as observer or a player seat or solitaire. It's not going to matter for now, so I'm just going to hit finish. And voila, there we are. There's the map. So our map graphic is in there, but it's really huge. And you can see on the toolbar that we have several buttons. We have an undo button, a playback button for stepping through a log file. We have a server control button that functions. It will show us the server. We have a retire button that allows us to give up our player seat. We have a pieces button that doesn't do anything because we don't have any pieces in the module yet. There is an image capture tool that saves the map as a ping image. And we have that mark all pieces on the map as having not moved button. But we don't have any zoom in or zoom out buttons. So let's go ahead and add those. Clicking on File and Close will close the Vassal module without closing out of the software itself. And it gets you back to here where we can go into the editor window. And we'll go over to Main Map. And when we right click on the Main Map folder, there's all kinds of things we can add. We can add an overview window, line of sight thread, multi-action buttons, zoom capability. That's the one we want. So we're going to add zoom capability to our module. Immediately there are preset zoom levels, 0.39. I think a lot of these are based on your current monitor size and resolution based on whatever operating system you're using. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take out, I'm going to select on the left, I'm going to left click on these preset settings here on the right, and I'm going to remove them. I'm going to remove all of them except for 1.0. 1.0 is the native resolution zoom setting. Now, if you add anything above 1.0, it will zoom in beyond what the resolution of the picture is intended to show. In other words, it's going to look pixelated, perhaps grainy or blurry. I don't find it helpful at all to ever go above 1.0. If you want to be able to zoom in really big on something, then make sure you have a very high resolution image in the first place. And then you assign lower level zooms so that when you're zooming in all the way, when you want something really, really big, that's the 1.0 setting. That way everything looks sharp and crisp. I hate blurry images when you click on a zoom button. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to add 20% at 20% intervals. We're going to add a 0.8 zoom setting, show us the image at 80%, and then we'll do 0.6, give us a 60% zoom, and then from there we'll go 0.5. We'll step it out, and then 0.4. and 0.3 and 0.2. Okay, so that gives us a pretty good variety there. Now we have a wide range. We have 20% zoom, 30%, 40, 50, 60, 80, and 100%. 100% is going to be the biggest we want it. What do we want the thing to immediately load at? Let's go ahead and set it at 60% as the initial. You'll see there's an asterisk right next to the 1.0. That's the initial zoom setting. To change that, we left click on one of these settings on the right, select it. Let's go ahead and select 0.6, and we'll choose set initial, and it'll move the asterisk there. Then we have buttons for the zoom in, the zoom out, and a zoom select. Those are already set for us. I don't think we need to change those at present time. We'll mess around with icons a little bit later. For now, it's just a matter of inserting the data, and then we'll make the toolbar icons look really nice when we're nearly finished. We'll go ahead and click OK on that. Now let's test it out. Now notice at this change, I don't even have to save the module, exit, re-enter. I can immediately go over to the Navajo Wars controls, File, New Game, just join as observer, and there you have it. It immediately loaded the module at the 0.6, 60% zoom setting. And then we have zoom in, zoom out, zoom select buttons here on the toolbar, which will allow us to zoom in. So there's the biggest we can go. And as we zoom out, you can see that is the smallest that we can go. Zoom select will then allow us to fit the width of our screen, which is I find to be very useful. It's the one I use the most. And then to fit the height of a screen, and so forth. So those changes are already done. We're all set. And what we've accomplished is we have inserted a module into our library. We have taken that module, given it a name. We have inserted map graphics into that, so we have a main map playing surface. We've inserted a zoom capability into that main map, and we're all set to go to start putting pieces into the map. So that will be what we'll do in our very next video. So I hope you found this to be useful. As always, make sure you save your work, save regularly, save often. That way you don't lose hours and hours of work. Trust me, it can happen. Power failures, software can crash on you. Just always make sure you save. But hopefully you found this video to be of use. In our next video, we'll start looking at game pieces and things that we can do with the game pieces.